So it looks like Microsoft and Xbox are actually going to do it. And this is something that's been brought into question now, the idea of putting Call of Duty into Game Pass, with a report mentioning that Microsoft themselves were having internal discussions around the viability of even doing something like that going forward. And this did sound weird to me when I heard it, since at this time Call of Duty would be considered first party with Microsoft, and they said, hey, all first-party games are going into Game Pass Ultimate day one. And now that they've bought Activision Blizzard, well, Call of Duty falls right in line with that. Now, based on a new report, we seem to have that answer if we can expect Call of Duty to go in. And this has brought up a lot of questions around if this is a good idea for Microsoft and if it's something that could backfire in the future. Why don't we go over all of that and even propose the idea that, hey, maybe Game Pass could actually help Call of Duty overall. We'll get into that. Guys, if you enjoy this video, make sure that like button though, and subscribe if you're new. So this report we can see is posted up over on The Verge. They are citing the Wall Street Journal. They say Microsoft has reportedly decided to add the next installment of Call of Duty to Xbox Game Pass. The Wall Street Journal reports that Microsoft will announce that Call of Duty is coming to its game subscription service during the company's Xbox showcase on June 9th. I'll have The Verge linked down below, as well as the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal is paywalled, but looking at this, okay, so the way most likely they know this right now from their sources is because we are getting closer to that showcase, so marketing materials are being set up, and trust me, Microsoft, since they are doing this, they're going all in here with Call of Duty in Game Pass, they're going to want marketing all over the place, and that's where I assume the Wall Street Journal is getting their information from, since there's probably all kinds of graphics and stuff with Game Pass directly next to what's apparently going to be a Call of Duty Black Ops game. So it's going to continue that franchise, or that iteration of Call of Duty. And that'll be very, very popular, I'm sure. So naturally, Microsoft wants to have the Xbox logo, the Game Pass logo, Call of Duty. We've seen these past couple of generations, whether it was the PS4 and the Xbox One, or the Xbox 360 and the PS3, that having the marketing around Call of Duty helps it like a ton. It at times it's made or even it make or break for the generation. Like for a while there, Microsoft had it with the 360, and then Sony swooped in with the PS4, and either side benefited during those different generations. And now Microsoft just outright owns Activision Blizzard. I don't think Call of Duty is all of a sudden gonna shift the balance completely to where, oh wow, the Xbox is outselling PlayStation 5. But it certainly, I assume, will give a boost to Xbox Game Pass. But the question has become, will that even out the potential loss that Microsoft will have just omitting that $70 price tag? Which, hey, if you're a subscriber to Game Pass, this is only good news. You're going to get the newest Call of Duty in there, most likely all of the older Call of Duty titles. And then, if that works out, we assume every Call of Duty going forward. So for the consumer, this is great. Really, I'm thinking more along the lines of Microsoft's point of view here, since they are trying to operate Xbox and their gaming division with something like this in mind. The thing that's interesting about Call of Duty is it is incredibly popular, sure, and it does make a lot of money up front, but it also makes a ton of money after you buy in. Like, we know that there is Warzone, which is free to play, but there's a ton of microtransactions there with battle passes and all kinds of stuff to get you after you start playing. And then also just with the multiplayer for Call of Duty, there's a ton of stuff there to buy too. And if you take a look over on the US sales charts from Circana, this would be the year to date up until, as they show here, April 6th. So just 2024, Call of Duty is number 2, Modern Warfare 3. Remember, that came out last year. It went through a whole holiday season, and these would be sales after all of that. Still up there, though, just under Helldivers 2, which it's actually pretty common to see a Call of Duty game from the previous year there with the new Call of Duty in the sales charts for the US that holiday. So I wouldn't be shocked if Modern Warfare 3 was still in this top 20, even with this new Black Ops game that comes out. And then if you take a look over on, this is the Xbox just player engagement tracker, again from Circana. Call of Duty HQ is number 2. That includes Call of Duty Warzone 2.0, Modern Warfare 2, and Modern Warfare 3. The reason for that is because now Activision just put everything together under one app. Essentially, it's just like Call of Duty on your dashboard. You go there and then you can kind of pick between all the different Call of Duties and modes, and it essentially transitions you seamlessly. It's a way for them to just keep you engaged rather than have to go back to your dashboard on your PC, your PlayStation, your Xbox. They're just trying to keep you kind of in that world and not give you the opportunity to think about playing something else, really. Over on the PlayStation, same story. Call of Duty HQ is number 2. I mean, the only thing beating out Call of Duty on either of these platforms when it comes to engagement is Fortnite. And the idea with engagement for these big companies is the longer they can keep you in their game, or the more people they can accrue into their game, the more money will come in just from microtransactions and them, of course, putting it in front of you with all kinds of things to buy. And at times, I'm sure people end up spending more money on microtransactions than they do to get in the door with that $70 price. And I think that's going to be the big question, and something we're going to have to find out when this all happens later on this year. Can they even out that $70 loss essentially per sale instead of course, with the subscription service, which, by the way, you do have to pay for Game Pass. It's this thing where people go, oh, it's free. Sure, technically you download it. You still have to pay every month. Right now, it's what, like $18? Let's face it, the subscription services in general, just outside of Game Pass, continue to climb with Netflix, Max, Hulu, Amazon Prime. You're going to see things like Game Pass go up. PlayStation Plus will probably go up again. Nintendo service will go up. So subscription services increasing in price isn't surprising. The thing, though, comes down to, can you continue to add value to it so that people look at that and go, well, yeah, it's only like $2 more, and now look, I have Call of Duty. Or really what Microsoft should do is put in as many Call of Duties as they can and build up an entire section when you log into Game Pass. It's like Call of Duty, play them all. And it just has an entire history of them there. I think that'd actually be pretty cool to see and would add a ton of value to the service. And yes, in Microsoft's mind, would be worth some sort of price increase. But still, can they offset the $70 price of entry that they would normally collect? Because Call of Duty is basically guaranteed revenue for Activision every single year. It doesn't seem to matter if the game gets terrible reviews. Modern Warfare 3 had one of the most underwhelming campaigns I've ever seen in a Call of Duty title. Didn't matter. The game still topped like Circana's charts. We see it with the engagement numbers. People just play Call of Duty in droves, and they buy it in droves at retail for the holidays. And Black Ops is an incredibly strong IP within the Call of Duty universe, so that will do really well. And that's the question. By bringing Call of Duty to Game Pass, will they actually end up bringing in more people? Can Game Pass funnel in more potential customers beyond that normally that $70 barrier of entry? It's possible. Like, they could actually see a heavy spike in monthly active users that end up converting over to microtransactions, which in turn might even everything out. There is one other interesting thing to consider here, and that is that by the time this Call of Duty comes out, we could be roughly 2 years away from Microsoft releasing their next generation system. And I know that sounds strange because the cross-gen period has gone on so long that it does feel like these systems are still relatively new, even though we're expecting things like a PS5 Pro coming up here at the end of this year. Still, though, people refer to these systems as next gen still. And we're looking at potentially Microsoft launching a next generation Xbox in 2026. Sarah Bonds talked openly about how they're working on apparently the largest technical leap we've ever seen. So when you have this person here who Insider Gaming has referred to as a Call of Duty data miner saying, hearing from trusted source that the next Xbox is planned to be released in late 2026, very likely that Call of Duty 2026 is a day one release for it. It's not too surprising that maybe Microsoft could look at the intangibles of Call of Duty next to their service and next to their Xbox brand as they build up over the next couple of years, with Call of Duty next to that heading into their next generation. And that it's possible that when we do break away from this generation with the introduction of new systems and Microsoft maybe shows up early, like ahead of Sony, potentially by up to 2 years, if Sony is considering a 2028 release, you might have people jump over to this new system because Call of Duty is right next to it. I know it's still going to be on the PlayStation. Microsoft will still be selling plenty of copies on PS5, which I believe is the platform that ends up selling like the most copies of Call of Duty 2. But there is that thought process of the marketing, the logos, the flashy trailers, everything, and then there's the Xbox logo for the mainstream specifically, and that is mostly what Call of Duty ends up catering to. But we're still technically years off from that next system releasing, and we have to see how Call of Duty 2024 will end up doing. Can it push Game Pass subscriber count numbers for a service that's become fairly stagnant at this point? People are looking at this as Microsoft's big, like they're swinging for the fences with this release, and if this can't do it, nothing will. I really just think Microsoft needs to have a consistent flow of releases, and that is what will get Game Pass really moving again. And hey, Call of Duty comes out every year, so maybe that is the spark that gets them moving in the right direction with their subscriber count. But let me know what you guys think about this down below. If you were Microsoft, would you drop Call of Duty in there, or would you have second thoughts about that based on how expensive some of these games are getting to make? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.